Okay, good afternoon. So for today's Seatwork, bale, this is a tutorial video that I did for my students in Multimedia 1 for their Seatwork, I think number 3. So for this one, we're going to create a very simple advertisement poster. It can also be a landing page for a website, but it can be both. But definitely we're going to make use of Photoshop for today's activity. So for today's video, these are the tools that we are going to make use of. Type tool, blending options, layer styles, maybe clipping mask as well, merging layers, and then adjustment layers. So it would be better that you guys also know a few of the basic Photoshop techniques like merging layers and then creating new layers and the layer effects as well. So I will be creating a different video siguro for that. But for this one, I'll try to at least incorporate them. So, techniques that we're also going to use paggamit ng blending layers. I mean, that's a technique. Blending layers, inserting adjustment layers. Apologies for the spelling errors. Clipping mask, and then pag-blur ng shapes to create shadows. Although, pwede naman natin gamitin si drop shadow kay layer effects, but sometimes, in a 3D space or using Photoshop and then creating 3D space, medyo parang it would be better na gumamit tayo ng shapes to create the shadow and then i-blur out natin siya using the effect. So, this is what we are trying to achieve for today. Yan yung ating sample output. Parang ano siya, and then I got the images from FreePic and then the brand mock-up yung mga cups as well from FreePic. These aren't mine. So, and then yan yung ating sample output. So, meron tayong text na ginamit, meron tayong clipping mask na ginamit, and then may ginamit tayong drop shadow. And then, I think gagamit din tayo ng grains or add noise textures. So, this nga pala based from the art style trends in graphic design, by the way, na minimalism or paggamit ng very few elements in the design. Negative spaces, paggamit ng monochromatic color combinations. And then, yun siya. So, for today, again, yan natin ulit, this is going to be what we are trying to achieve. This is our sample output. So, let's start. So, now that we've opened Photoshop, the first thing that we're going to do is to create a new document by pressing Ctrl-N, create a new document. Pangalanan natin siyang sample landing page. The width will be 1920 pixels. Then, the height naman would be 1080. The resolution would be 200. And then, wala na tayong ibang kailaman pa with default settings. So, let's click OK. Yan. Now, gusto natin gawin, para lang mas makita siguro natin, we'll insert the... Let's try to insert the sample output in the document para lang mas makita natin siya by dragging it from the file explorer. And then, ayan, this is what we're trying to achieve again. Para lang meron tayong sample of ano ba yung gusto nating magaya. Ito yung pagbabasihan natin. So here, these are the resources that we'll be needing. Ayan, we have pictures ng mga coffee, na may coffee cup, ganyan. So ito yung mga gagamitin nating file assets. So let's start na. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to insert a ripped paper element. Ayan. I think ito ginamit ko si number 3. So para mas mabilis tayong makapag-insert ng images, since hindi mo naman na siya bubuksan on a different document, in Photoshop, just drag the picture element sa Photoshop file mo. Then, press enter. Then automatically, it will become a brand new layer sa gilid. So, check natin again. This is what we want to achieve. So, kailangan natin siyang i-rotate. So, if you would want to rotate an element, natin ito here. May kita natin, the cursor will change. Natin ulit. Natin, the cursor will change into something like this, parang rotating arrows. So, and then, rotate lang natin siya like how we usually do it in other applications. Para lang talaga tayo nagro-rotate in. So, yan siya. Now that we have already rotated our rip paper element, Nga po pala, there are other ways in doing that. For example, you can also do, we want to flip an element, pwede naman natin i-click si edit on top para hindi ka na mag-rotate. And then, hanapin natin si transform and then click natin si flip vertical. So, ganyan siya. So, I think parang baligtad, no? Pwede natin gawin, click natin ulit si transform and then flip horizontal. Ayan. Gusto natin ma-flip. And then, press enter. So, there are a lot of ways in doing things naman in Photoshop. So, kung ano yung mas mabilis for you. But, kung kailangan mo pa siyang i-modify in terms of rotation, it would be better na gamitin natin yung naunang technique kanina. So, after that, kung napapansin natin, pati yung nasa taas na space na occupy nung coffee image. So, ang gagawin natin here is, there are again a lot of ways. Ang gusto nating mangyari is, we'll be overlaying a coffee image on top and then dito lang siya mag-occupy. Magki-clipping mask tayo later. But for now, ang gagawin natin is, pwede tayong mag-insert ng shape. And then here, yung negative space on top, gawa lang tayo ng shape. Palitan natin yung fill para lang may laman. Ayan. Ayan. And then, what we're going to do, na meron na tayong rectangle here on top, we're going to merge layers. So, merge layers, you have to select the layers you want to merge. So, while holding the control button in your keyboard, select the layers that you want to merge. Then, right-click on the layers and then click merge layer. So, pag na-click natin yan, when we say merging layers, we're basically combining the layers all together. So, you have to be very careful with that. However, pwede naman nating i-undo pa rin by pressing Ctrl-Z. Tip, the shortcut key for merging layers is after selecting your layers is Ctrl+E. And automatically, it will be merged. Ganyan siya. Now, after that, what we want to do is to overlay yung coffee picture. So, clap, tapos na tayo with one. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to insert an image of the coffee. Yan. We'll be using this one. So, let's just drag the image here from 3, then press enter. Ayan. So, what we want to do is, gusto natin, mag-appear lang itong image na to dun sa area na nakalagay itong rectangle. So, nandyan lang siya. Parang kagaya nun sa ganito. Mag-appear lang siya up until where that image below will end. So, ang gagawin lang po natin is yung technique na clipping mask. So, select the layer, the coffee image na you want to clip mask dun sa layer na nasa baba. Right-click, and then click natin si Create Clipping Mask. Ayan siya. Tapos, lalabas na siya. So, what will happen is, kapag in-adjust natin yung layer na nasa baba, in-adjust natin siya, mag-a-appear lang yung image kung nasaan yung rectangular shape. Ayan, na may repeater yung dinagdag. So, tingnan niya natin kung nakakuha na natin. Ayan, medyo na-achieve na natin yung ating gustong gayahin. Next one that we need to do is if you try to look here, parang medyo gradient siya here. Sir Kenmar, parang medyo may kulay itim. Parang ano siya, parang nag-fade into black sa ilalim. What we can do is, again, there are numerous techniques. We can make use of the effects layer sa ilalim. If you click here, pwede natin gamitin si gradient overlay. So, a new window will appear. What will happen is, it will overlay a gradient, ayan, over that image. So, here, pag click natin ito, pwede natin i-edit yung ating, pwede natin i-edit ating layer overlay. So, gradient overlay rather. Pero hindi natin kailangan yung dilaw. What we want to do is itim. So, what we can do is to adjust the gradient na gusto nating overlay, i-click lang natin ito. This represents the color. And then change this into black. Ayan. And then click OK. Here you can also adjust the angle So, medyo nasa baba siya. So, we'll be using this. Oops. Ayan. You can also adjust the opacity to make it darker. And then here, the style, you can change linear or radial. I don't know if you guys can see it though. Then, but for now, we'll be using linear. So, si scale, it will adjust your gradient as well. So, kasi nag-iiba siya here. But, I think, so, if you try to look at it, parang hindi ganyan yung gusto nating ma-achieve. Although that's one way to do it. But what we did here was, we inserted a brand new layer and then using the gradient tool instead of the paint bucket tool. So, gamitin natin si gradient tool. And then, gradient tool is quite the same with a paint bucket tool. It will basically fill a layer with color. But instead of a solid fill, gradient yung kanyang gagawin, yung pang fill. So if you click here, we can edit here on top. So gusto natin black lang. So meron naman iba't ibang gradient styles. Pwedeng ganito, pwedeng ganyan. Pero ito lang, black lang naman yung kailangan natin. So click OK. Now, often nagkakaroon tayo ng problem with using gradient tool. Even ako nagkakaroon ng problema kung saan ba natin siya, saan tayo magsisimula with a gradient tool. Always remember, kung saan kayo unang nag-click, doon magsa-start yung color. And then you drag your cursor palayo kung saan mo siya gustong mag-stop. So, nakita nyo naman. Ayan. Again, pakita natin ulit. For example, I will be starting here sa bottom left. And then papunta rito sa top right. If I'm saying it correctly. And then drag natin siya. Kung nakita nyo naman, yung starting point, that will start with the color and then dun mag-e-end kung saan. Gumamit natin on top ay radial, but for now, ang gagamitin natin ay radial lang. So, parang lang. Palitan natin siya. And then again, kung saan natin gusto mag-start, dun tayo mag-press. And then, i-drag natin yung cursor kung saan natin siya gustong mag-stop. So, basically, yan siya. Fill tayo ng isang layer ng gradient overlay. Tapos, i-clipping mask lang din natin siya. Kung gusto natin mag-appear lang siya dun sa may coffee bean na picture. Pareho ba? Pareho? Ayan, medyo pareho. Pero, parang meron pa rin konting kulang, sir. Dito yung coffee natin, medyo mamula-mula yung mga coffee beans. Dahil mamula-mula siya, we don't really need to edit that much. Instead of using adjustment layers, pwede naman nating palitan yung blending options ni gradient layer natin. Palitan nga natin yung kanyang name. So, here, ito yung mga blending options in Photoshop. What we can do is, we can try to explore, darken. You can use your down or your arrow down keys in your keyboard. Kapalitan, makikita natin, nagpapalit siya, nagiging multiply. Color burn. Near burn, darker color. Lighten, papuputiin niya ng slight in color. Basically, the blending mode will adjust how a layer will look on top of another layer. So, since naglagay tayo ng black, it will either lighten or darken color. So, for now, ang ginamit ko po ay overlay. Yan po yung ginamit natin na blending mode, the overlay. Although we have a different topic for blending options, pero si overlay, madalas natin siyang ginagamit if you want to heighten the contrast of a layer. So, medyo hawig na ba? Yan. Oops, medyo. Pero, adjust na lang natin ng konti yung opacity. Ayan. So, now that we have already achieved yung top part, ang gagawin naman po natin ngayon is we're going to insert these cups on our document. So again, balik tayo sa ating file folder. Let's drag these coffee cup that are already transparent. So wala na tayong po-problemahin na i-remove na background. And then press enter. Now, parang medyo iba pa rin yung kulay. Okay, since dito nakalagay, pero medyo parang brown sir yung kulay ng ating cups na parang tinted siya. There are again a lot of ways in changing the color of an element in Photoshop. We can make use of the layer styles. Again, gamitin natin si color overlay. So si color overlay, again, a new window will appear. What it will do is it will overlay a solid color sa ating element. So this one, gray yung ginamit by default. What we can do is we want to make the color of the cups na medyo brown. So using the color picker, we can change the color into brown. Kaya it overlaid a very solid color brown. We can adjust the blending mode. For now, we can try to make use of the blending mode color to change it. Kaso parang medyo super dilaw. Medyo gusto natin hindi maapektuhan din yung mga whites. Although this is one technique on how we can change the color of an element in Photoshop. So, pwede naman yan. Let's click OK. But if you try to look at it, parang hindi ganun yung effect, Sir Kelmar. What we did here is, instead of using the effects option or color overlay, we made use of an adjustment layer here sa ibaba. So, click natin sa adjustment layer and then, hanapin natin si hue and saturation. So, what will happen here is, if you try to change the hue over an adjustment layer, what will happen is, all the layers below will be affected. So, mag-iiba rin yung kanyang hue or yung basically yung kanyang kulay. Ayan. So, nakita natin nag-iiba yung kulay ng mga coffee bean habang dinadrag natin itong arrow on the hue. So, gusto natin mangyari, medyo brown. Pero, but sir, hindi po natin ma-achieve yung ganong kulay. What we can do is we can click on this colorize checkbox and then pag click natin ito, what you can see is it will colorize the cup. So, check lang natin yung cup. Huwag muna natin alalahanin yung background. Excuse me. So, huwag na natin muna alalahanin yung background element. So, focus na muna tayo dun sa cup. Medyo gawin natin medyo parang brown. Parang slightly, parang ganito siguro. Oops, ganyan. We can adjust the saturation so to make the color more vibrant para mag-pop pa. Tumingkad. Ayan, para tumingkad ng konti pa yung kulay. If you want to make it darker, babaan mo yung lightness. Want to make it lighter, pero hindi natin siya kailangan. So, balik natin siya sa 0. So, ayan. I think parang na-achieve naman natin. Achieve ba? Slightly. Parang medyo brown pala siya. Is it? Yon. Medyo pwede na. Ayan. Now, Sir Kenmer, what happened was, pati po yung background ng mga coffee nasa likod na apektuhan. Since adjustment layers, they will all affect layers that are visible below. What we can do is, right-click again, gamitin natin clipping mask para it will only take effect dun sa layer sa ilalim niya. Ayan na siya. Let's check nga. Ayan, medyo malapit na tayo sa katotohanan. Now, kung napansin natin, merong shadow sa ibaba. Ayan. Merong shadow sa ibaba, Sir Kenmar. Dun sa mismong top. Ayan. Ito wala pa. Now, we can make use again of the drop shadow technique. Pero what will happen here in the layer styles is, si drop shadow po kasi, it will take the shape of the, it will take the shape of the full image. So, parang hindi po ganyan yung gusto nating ma-achieve. Since parang gusto nating, we want to make it appear parang 3D. So, uncheck lang natin ito para hindi siya mag-take effect. Ayan. Again, there are a lot of ways to create this shadow below. Pwede tayong gumamit ng ellipse tool. We are going to insert we're going to insert an ellipse here. Medyo wala siyang fill. Ayan natin ang fill. Black. Ayan. And then, what we can do here on top in our menu bar, we can click on filter and then click natin si blur so we can blur this object. So pwede natin gamitin si Gaussian blur. So rasterize layer, that would be fine. Just click OK. And then it will blur your shadows. The good thing about this is it will make your image look more, it will make your image appear like it is in a 3D space compared kanina na direct yung light na nakikita natin. So, pwede nating adjust na lang yung opacity to make it lighter. Always remember, if a shadow is closer to the object, it will tend to appear darker. Ayan. Again, there's another way. Let's try to insert a new layer. So using the elliptical marquee tool, we can insert a shadow again. What we need to do lang is taasan natin yung feather. Since again, based from the previous tutorial, feathers will blur out the edges of the selected portion. So siguro I think 20 or 30 siguro will do. And then, yan. Gawa lang tayo ng parang shadow below. And then using the bucket tool, fill tayo inside the elliptical portion. Ayan. So, yan pa. And then, adjust na lang din natin yung opacity. So again, there are a lot of ways of doing drop shadows in a design. Let's try to look. Alam ko walang drop shadow isang cup. Sige, dahil nalagyan na natin. So, ayan. Next one, maglagay tayo ng ng solid fill sa ilalim. So, what we can do is para makuha natin yung color na to, we can make use of the eyedropper tool to copy that particular color key. So, any portion will do. Siguro, let's try to copy here. Automatically nakita natin nagpalit yung foreground color. So we can hide this layer and then use a new layer. Click G on your keyboard, shortcut for your paint bucket tool, then fill that particular layer. Okay. I think it's lighter so we can adjust naman. So moving on, so ayan. Hinay ko lang effects. I think parang nabuksan ko siya. So now that we have already made our design as similar as possible from the original one. Now, kung napansin natin, parang, sir, medyo parang merong grains and texture sa ibaba sa ating solid fill. So, parang, for now, wala pa siya. So, para lang makuha natin yung paper texture na yon, can do is, click D, letter D, on your keyboard to set your foreground and background color to black and white again. And then, let's click on a new layer, fill that particular layer with black. And then, using the filter options, let's try to click filter. Click natin si noise. And then, let's add noise. Tayo ay mag-ingay. Ba't may ganon? So, what it will do is it will create yung noise para kasing noise yung sa TV back then. So, magkakaroon siya ng parang, grainy texture. So, pwede nating adjust yung amount. Ayan. So, the higher it is, it will appear to be more and more grainier. Pwedeng uniform, pwedeng Gaussian. If you click OK, and then, meron na siyang grainy texture. But then again, we can adjust the blending options into soft light. And then, siguro let's adjust the opacity as well para magkaroon lang siya ng texture. So, ayan. Now that we've already mimicked, I think, yung buong ating design, I think that's almost all of it, no? The last thing I think na kailangan na lang nating idagdag is a text layer. May nakalagay na coffee. So, using the tool, ayan, na-insert na natin yung word na coffee in our document. Now, ang gusto natin mangyari, magkaroon tayo ng line na parang division lang siya ng text na nasa ibaba. So, what we can do is using the pen tool, we can create a shape. And then, nga pala, if you would want to create a straight line in Photoshop, what we can do is, using the pen tool, click on the starting point, say here, and then hold Shift on your keyboard and then press again for the end point. So here on top, we can adjust the stroke color first. Let's make it white. Now, wala pa tayong nakikita ang pagbabago since hindi pa natin i-increase yung size ng kanyang stroke. Basically, the stroke is parang yung border siya in layer styles. So instead of dotted lines or broken lines, straight line yung gusto nating mangyari. So pwede natin i-adjust yung kanyang alignment. Since nakita natin nasa baba siya or outside, we can align it to the path itself. And then babaan natin. Let's try to make it maybe I think even 1.5. Ayan. Up na ba? On. Then, let's just try to write down yung natitira pang text sa baba. Tip. Here on top, may kita natin, merong slider options actually yung ating font size. So, if you drag this to the left, it will decrease the size of the font. Again, if you drag it naman to the right, it will increase. So, this is an easier way of adjusting the font size. So, you don't have to adjust it pa manually. Now, it's quite fine, sir, pero parang may problem pa tayo in terms of alignment. So, if you would want to align layers nang sabay-sabay, what we can do is select here on the layers panel all the layers na you want to align. Select them. And then here on top, you can see the transform controls. And then here you can also see the alignment. So here you can align them in the middle, pero hindi yan yung sa atin mangyari. We want to align them all to the left. So para lang din siyang kay PowerPoint, align left edges. Click, and then automatically it will adjust itself. So let's try to check if it looks the same. Quite looks the same, pero meron na tayong konting problems with the dimension and maybe a few colors, but technically those are all the tools that you are needing in creating a very simple poster like this one. So that's all for the Seatwork. Number 3, I hope you learned a thing or two about using clipping mask, about blending options, layer adjustments, and using the type tool and the pen tool as well. So goodbye and see you all next meeting.